Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of Black Press USA and the National Newspaper Publishers Association's FIYAH broadcast. On April 21st, 2016, the world lost its biggest icon, Prince. Prince left such a legacy unmatched. But here to talk about that legacy and more, somebody who can really speak to that legacy is a member of Prince's iconic band, The Revolution, the one and only guitarist, Mr. BrownMark. Good afternoon, BrownMark.
Thank you for having me here again. Love being here.
Yeah. It's absolute pleasure. We had the privilege of having BrownMark on our morning show, Let It Be Known, last week, and it's great to have him on FIYAH. Mark, let's get right into it. First and foremost, before we get into the back in the day stuff, let's talk about here and now. You have a book out right now, which is an interesting look into not only Prince, but the entire Revolution, that great band that is always going to be synonymous with Prince. Tell us a little bit about the book, the title. If you have it with you, show everybody that book cover. There it is. My Life in the Purple Kingdom.
Yes. Good story. I mean, I find I enjoyed reading it again, and I wrote it. So I mean, it's a really good story because I'm entering the story not from a tell-all standpoint or viewpoint, but just from a painful place. And when you search things from a painful place in your heart, then the real stuff comes out. Because I wanted to. It was kind of cathartic for me because I needed a way to release a lot of the stuff that was in me for decades.
Yeah.
From the time I was a little kid growing up in the music industry, it has been rough, and then I reached this pinnacle in my career, and then I'm looking back and I'm just like, wow, is this what all that work was for? And so that's where this came in. This really helped me to put things into perspective, sort of like when people have a diary almost, and they put things into perspective, and then it helps you to heal. You can heal through a lot of the pain, a lot of the problems you had, and this is what helped me to do it. And like I was telling you guys earlier, I had written this over 10 years ago, so. Yeah. Prince knew about it before he passed away even. And so, he wanted to definitely read it before it went out. But, he would have, knowing him, he would have definitely been mad about a few things in it, but not much. Because me and him kept it real like that. And he knows I'm going to speak my mind. I'm going to say what I'm going to say. I've always been that way with him. So.
Yeah. And where were you, Mark, when you got the news of Prince's death?
I was living in California, and I was laying in the bed. It was 9 o'clock in the morning, and my friend Huck Austin, who used to be one of Prince's bodyguards, he knows some of the police officers on the force, and they were out at Paisley, and he said, "Mark, I got a call. And something happened at Paisley." And I was like, "What? What do you mean something happened?" And then he called me back 30 minutes later. He said, "Let me check it out." He called me back 30 minutes later and he said, "Mark, he's gone. He's gone." And I remember I was laying in the bed in disbelief. I was like, what do you mean he's gone? And he said, "Man, Prince is gone." And I was like, oh man, the tears just started coming down. And it was a painful, very painful moment for me. I remember that very clearly.
We've heard so many different stories, and it's not to put anybody on the spot. I know that, Sheila E. has said some things, and others have said some things about Prince's condition prior to his death. We know about the airplane ride from Atlanta, in which he basically needed a Narcan shot to bring him back. But one of the things that people have talked about constantly is the problems he had with the hip and the hip surgeries and trying to endure the pain. What did you know about that, Mark?
I knew he would complain about the hip, but Prince is a very private person. especially when it comes to pain. And, you know, only certain people is he just going to open up with that kind of stuff with. And for me, he just never talked about his pain. But then, you know, this is a guy that I spent a decade with, always telling me, nah, the show goes on, you know. I remember I got on stage with a temperature of 101. He was
Wow.
like, the show got to go on. What are you telling me for? What's that all about? And he would do it too. He'd get on stage, he'd be sick as a dog, and he'd get out there and he would do his thing. So that was just who he was. And so even though I knew he had a problem with that hip, and you could see it, you could definitely see the pain.
Yeah.
He wouldn't talk about it. At least not with me. He never did. So.
And when was Mark the last conversation you had with him, and what was it like?
Foggy brain. It had to have been maybe the summer of 2015, or it was right before the piano tour.
Okay.
Whenever that was. And I just remember he had me come out to Paisley Park, and man, my brain is so foggy. I just remember going out to Paisley Park, and I remember him talking to me, because he would do that a lot. He would fly me in. Sometimes he'd forget that he told me. He would forget that he invited me out, and I'd be sitting up in the hotel for 2 and 3 days, you know, and I'd be like, okay, Prince, come on, man, because I didn't have a bat phone. He didn't give me the bat phone because I wasn't part of the crew anymore. So, but I just remember we were in the parking lot, and when I showed up, he was riding his bike, and I remember him seeing me. He was really happy to see me, and he said, come on inside. I remember he fed me some lunch, and we sat there and we talked about Paisley, and we talked about some of the stuff that was going on, but he never, ever sweated.
Yeah.
Never saw him sweat. I never heard him talk about any pain or anything that he was going through.
Yeah.
So.
And we're gonna take some questions also today from our viewers. And one of the questions, I'll take this question now. We'll get back to others. Darnell Henderson asked the question: Who controls Prince's masters? Is that something Prince did control toward the end there? I know there was a battle in the '90s with the record labels, with Warner Brothers. Were you aware of how that turned out?
You know, that's probably more of a question for, some of the people that were managing him, like Gilbert Davison or somebody like that. I don't know his legal troubles. I knew there was a lot. I know some inside stories because of people that I know that worked at Paisley, but that's all hearsay. So I won't speak on hearsay. I'm not a gossiper. But, but the one thing I do know, is that I believe Universal, I'm not sure if it's Warner Brothers owns certain parts and then Universal owns the others, but I do know how it works. I got all my publishing back from all the work I did in the 80s. I had a big deal with Joe Bett Music in Motown, and I got my whole catalog back, but I never got my masters.
Mm.
You don't own them.
Right.
Yeah, it's done deal. Once you sign that deal, it's theirs. And I tried to get my masters back so that I could redo the Just Like That album and the Bang Bang album. I wanted to put it, or Good Feeling album. I wanted to re-release it because it's not on digital. It's not on CD. That was back in the time when everything came out on cassette. So,
right.
Yeah, very few people have it on CD. And last I checked, my Bang Bang album was going for $17,000. So I mean,
wow.
I really ain't gonna get a hold of that.
Yeah.
But, I wanted to remaster the whole thing, and as well as the Maserati. And you can't, man, it's like pulling teeth trying to get your masters back. See, so I can only imagine what Prince went through.
Yeah. And Emilio Santana says, will there be a movie made about him on the big screen? And if so, Mark, uh, what should that look like?
Here's the way I look at it. You know, my opinion may be different than a lot of people's. Prince was like my big brother. It wasn't like he's this guy I knew. I wasn't hired to go work for him. You know, I'll get that record straight. Prince didn't hire me. Prince asked me to join what he was doing. I joined Prince's band. I wasn't hired as a this hired gun to hold down the bass.
Right.
And so we had a different relationship. He was a band member. The Revolution was a band. It wasn't a hired hand. And so what happens is he dealt with us very differently. We learned a lot about what he liked and what he didn't like. And he let us speak our minds. And one thing that I know that he hated was for his personal life and anything about him personally to get out. I mean, he talked to all of us about it in the Revolution. We could not speak about, out of courtesy, about his personal life, and we didn't do it. It pains my heart right now to look at what's happening with all his dirt in the street, all his personal music catalogs and things. He did not want people to hear. If he wanted people to hear that stuff, he would have put it out years ago.
Right.
And you know, and right now it's just, you know, it's all about legacy and making money. I understand the game, but if he was alive right now, he'd be wringing some necks. That's all I got to say. He'd be ringing because that wasn't him. So if somebody's going to do a movie about him, then they better make sure that they're talking to the right people when they're putting it together. Because to me, that's a slippery. So that's something that I wouldn't want to be involved in, because Prince is rolling around in his grave trying to get at the folks, because I mean, it's just he was that kind of private. So to do a story about it, wow, that's going to be a hard one. I hope they don't screw it up. That's all I can say.
Yeah, and Mark, you're wearing a shirt that says 1969. We could turn that 6 around and say 1999, because 1999 album just before making that's when you joined the Revolution. Is that correct?
No. I've been in the Revolution since Controversy.
Controversy, okay.
Controversy was I came in right after Dirty Mind. He and Andre, something happened there, and he brought me right in. And I've been working with him. I was working with him when he was actually in the end stages of creating Controversy.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you know, someone's asking too. Celeste Hart was asking, what was the inspiration in naming the band The Revolution?
Yeah, because music has always been a revolution for Prince, even from the Dirty Mind days. You know, I don't know if you listen, how close people listen to the lyrics, but revolutionary rock and roll was one of his sayings in Party Up, and you know, and that was what he preached, this revolution in music. I got to break through this barrier. You know, I gotta reach a higher floor. I gotta break through. So music was a revolution for him. And I remember when he came to me and he asked me, and that was a cool thing about Prince too. He dealt with us like a dad. He didn't deal with us with a pack mentality. He dealt with each one of us individually. And that was, I don't know if that was strategic or what, but I know it was really cool, because I could speak my mind and not worry about what the rest of the band had to say.
Right.
See? And one of the things he said to me was, he came to me with about 2 or 3 different names. And he says, I don't want it to be Prince anymore. I want it to be Prince and he said, you know, we got this kind of Rolling Stones / Fleetwood Mac kind of thing going. and I want a really cool name. And he laid like 3 names down on me. And I remember I didn't like any of them except the Revolution. And then when he saw that I liked the Revolution, he was like, he's like, okay, because that's what he wanted each one of us to like, because that means we're all on the same page. And I was like, man, the Revolution got the ring, man. I like that. I think that's what we are. It best represents what we are. And that's how that came about, you know.
And, you know, some may think that anytime you and Prince and the band got together, it was just talking, and any discussions would center on music only. I'm pretty sure there had to be other, like you said, he was, you know, you guys were like brothers. Can you, without, and I'm not asking you to get personal, but without being too personal, what was some of the things that you would talk to him about, he would talk to you about, other than music?
You know, there was a time when Prince ate meat. You know, he wasn't always a vegetarian.
Okay.
We would talk about food a lot. I'm an eater. I like to eat. You know, I mean, I gained a few pounds in my older age, but that's okay. I don't care.
Did he give you pancakes?
Exactly. He liked pancakes. He liked breakfast food. You know, I would go to restaurants with Prince, and we would sit at a table. We'd be in Hollywood, man. You know, stars all around us, and he would order almost everything on the menu. And we would just sit there, and all this food was coming in, and then he would just be like, push that aside, and he would literally just nitpick at his food, and then he'd have him take it away. I'm like, hold on. Look, I'll eat some of that steak you got left on that plate right there, man. You know, we're talking high class restaurants, man, good gourmet food. And he's like telling them to take it away. I was like, oh no, bring that over here. I'll eat it. But no, I talked to him a lot about food. He was in the sports. I never was. See, so me and him never got on that conversation. He tried to, you know, beat me up in a few games of basketball, and I learned, you know, to always show up in my boots, so I didn't have to play with him no more.
Is that right? That's a secret.
That dude could play. And I didn't even want to play. So, you know, he called me to the studio, and they all be in the studio playing basketball. And I was like, oh, no, not me. So let me put my boots on. Like when he said, you didn't bring no shoes. I was like, nah, man, I didn't know you was going to be playing ball. I didn't like the basketball, not with him. Yeah. I'm 6 feet tall. He's 5'2", and you know, you rough him up. What's the aftermath of that? You know,
there's a price to pay.
Yeah, you know, I got to go on stage and play with this dude. You know, what am I gonna do if I knock him across the room? I was like, okay, you know what? But he was a really good ball player. So, you know, but we didn't talk too much about sports. We talked a lot about the change in music. What was funky to that generation versus what we grew up in. Yeah. You know, and we had a lot of conversations like that. Talked about women, you know, of course that was always a subject. Prince likes his girls. So
well, that wasn't hard to see, right?
Prince liked his girl. I had to keep many a secrets.
Well, what was the dynamic in the band? I mean, you had, of course, Lisa and Wendy. You know, you always had. Were they kind of, speaking of Lisa and Wendy, what was their relationship with Prince like? And I asked that, meaning this. You mentioned all the women, right? And we've seen them come through. You know, Kat and Sheila and everyone. But was Lisa and Wendy? Were they kind of like a sister? Like big sisters to him in that sense? Were they protective of him in some sense? Oh, was there more?
Well, you know, again, I've had conversations with Lisa. When I first came in, you know, I was always curious, you know, was there a relationship between her and Prince? And one day I just asked her, I was like, do you used to go out with him or something? You know, because they just had a weird dynamic. But, you know, that's a story that she has to tell.
Right,
like I said, I'm not stepping on anybody's toes.
Yeah.
I know stuff, but I can't speak on it because it's not my place. But Wendy and Lisa was an interesting asset to the group because from a musical standpoint, they just brought color. You know, they brought a lot of color. We grew up dark and funky, jamming the key E. Prince got tired of jamming the E and we went to B flat. I mean, it's like that became his key. And so everything was minor funk, just bang, 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 Here comes Lisa with this color, just everything, the way she played piano. And then Lisa and Wendy grew up, they were little girls together. So they grew up together living within close proximity of each other, and they were always together. Their families, their parents were musicians.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so they worked the Hollywood scene back in the day. So they grew up in the business.
Yeah.
Susanna and then Lisa. So when Prince brought Wendy on board, it was a no-brainer because her and Lisa were like sisters.
Mm-hmm.
Later that I found out that they was crushing on each other because I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah.
Traveling with them, back in the day, I was a little homophobic, so I'd make a few remarks and I'd be like, and they would look at me and they, and I'd be like, ooh, did I say something wrong? And I remember one day they just broke it down to me. And I was like, I remember I felt so bad. I said, you know what, guys? I said, I'm so sorry. You picked things up from the street. With the tongue, I may have said a few things that offended you. And they were like, you never offended us, Mark, because we knew you didn't know. You're just talking junk.
Right.
And sure enough, so they were not only a sister team, they were actually a couple at that time, which just added more power to it because, literally, like, if you ever seen Wendy play, her hands are all, like this. The way they voice chords, the way they hear things is so different because of their upbringing.
Yeah.
Different than the Minneapolis thing. So it was really cool how, that all kind of meshed together. It was really, yeah.
That's awesome. Emilio Santana, I might have Emilio Santana take over the show. Emilio is asking, did you ever disagree with your stage outfits with Prince?
Here's how that went. Okay. Prince would let me pick what I wanted, outfits, but he always had control of what I picked from. It wasn't like I got to walk in a closet or we had a seamstress team. It wasn't like I could go to them and say, hey, why don't you whip this up for me? I did that once and he stole my pattern.
Oh.
that yellow suit that bad suit that he was wearing, yeah, I had a white one.
No kidding.
He loved that suit and he took my pattern.
So you said the yellow one. Is that the one, Another Lover Holding Your Head?
Yes, that whole time period. And he wouldn't let me wear a suit. See, I stepped out, I was clean. I was clean, let me tell you. I stepped out that white suit, I was like, yeah, what? He said, you can't wear that. I said, what you mean I can't wear this? I had this made so I could wear this on stage, man. He put me in this long coat with drapery and, stuff hanging off. I was like, man, you the only one that can come out in a suit, and I got to wear all this garbage. But that's the way he was,
Okay. And so let's talk a little bit about that whole Minneapolis situation. Where did the time? I know Prince founded the Time, right, as he did to others, but how was that dynamic? Morris Day is such a strong personality in himself. How was that dynamic?
When I first,
Mark, you're like, you didn't ask me this on the morning show.
No, when I started hanging out, when I first got in, the first week, I'll never forget. it was on a Thursday night. I went out to audition, and that night, the club, the Foxtrot, that was I forget what they called it at the time, but it used to be the Foxtrot. But that was the joint everybody went to. I walk in there, and I knew Terry Lewis and Jimmy Jam. See, I never met Morris. I didn't know Morris, and so I knew that most of the time, and they all knew I was in. You know, long story short, that following week, Prince called me up and said, "We're going to LA to do some shopping." And I was like, oh, we are. I mean, we meaning I'm going with you to go shopping. And he was like, yeah, we're going shopping. Be ready. I was like, okay, there ain't no notice or nothing. You just, you know, you're going to drive by and come pick me up and I got to go, you know, just leave town. I can't tell my mom. I mean, it was crazy. And the night before that, he had taken me to get my hair done with our hairdresser's name was Alice. That's when I met Morris. And I remember we went to the hairdresser, Prince and Morris, and this hairdresser, it was after hours, this hairdresser opens the door and he's like, hey, Prince, come on in. You know, and he had this whole, just this swag about him, right? And I'm looking at Morris, because I'm like, wow, they kind of have that. This is where they're getting that thing from. Mm-hmm. It's got to be they're getting it from Alice, because that's how Alice was, man. Like, yes, honey, mm-hmm. You know, and it just exactly how Morris acts. Alice used to act like that, and so I started putting two and two together. And I said, I wonder if they're getting this from Alice. Long story short, they take me to LA to do some shopping. That's my first encounter with Morris. That's one funny dude, period. Across the board, that dude is crazy. He's funny as heck. Had me cracking up the whole time because I ain't never been around nobody like that.
Wow.
He's naturally cool. Morris was just cool. He's just like, yeah, we cool, you know. Yeah, mm-hmm. Yeah, you know, he just had this whole thing about him. And I'll never forget, it was we were supposed to get set up on dates, and it's that story's in the book.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you that.
We were getting set up on dates, and Prince had Ola Ray.
Oh,
I didn't know
the video.
I didn't know who. Yeah, with Michael Jackson. Yeah, I didn't know who Ola Ray was, and when she opened that door, I was like, oh. I was like, wow. And I remember she's like, yeah, my girlfriends are coming over. And so, yeah. And I was like, oh, man, if her girlfriends look like, you know, Morris is looking at me like, oh, you know. And so we were like, yeah. And then all of a sudden we hear this knock on the door. Boom, 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 boom. Morris opens the door. He's like, he said, oh, hell no. Bam. And he shut the door. I was on the floor. I ain't never seen nobody do that. And the next thing you know, there's all this commotion. Ola comes running out the room, and she opens the door for her girlfriends because they're banging. Morris wasn't about to let them in the door.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know if he remembers that story, but I do. I remember.
Wow. Well, it's one of those. It sounds like one of those stories you can't forget.
Oh, man. Especially me. I was young, wet behind the ears. I didn't know nothing about rockstar.
Mark, you were a teenager, am I correct, when you joined the Revolution?
I just turned 19.
Wow.
Yeah,
so you were seeing things that you couldn't imagine have seen before.
I ain't never seen nothing like it. I ain't never even seen nobody act like that, you know. They was cool. Prince and Morris, man, they had this swag about them where they was just cool. That's all I can say. They were some bad boys back then, man. Yeah.
And naturally they clashed. Anytime you have that much talent and that much coolness, as you say, it's going to be a clash. And there's been some stories about Rick James and his relationship with Prince, or lack of relationship with Prince. What was Rick James like as far as when you guys were around him?
See, that was before I came.
Okay.
I heard all the stories.
Okay.
And then one day we were in the club during Purple Rain season. We were in the club and Rick James wanted to meet me. And I remember Prince was pissed off, you know, because he's like, what does he want? What does he want with BrownMark? And, you know, Rick James is like, yeah, you know, I want you to, I'm thinking about having you play with Tina Marie. Go on the road with Tina. And I'll never forget, man, Prince came to me later and he says, we don't do things with Stone City. We don't do things with Rick James. Okay. If you play with Rick, then you on that team. You ain't
right.
with. And so he made it very clear you don't play with Rick James. You know? So I don't know how heavy their dynamic. Something went down. Something had to happen.
Oh wow.
They used to tell me stories about how their clothes would disappear and stuff like that backstage. A lot of sabotage. Yeah.
Wow. And so Revolution, you guys, we talked about this on the other show, but I want you to fill this audience in. What happened when you guys opened for the Rolling Stones?
That was quite a day, you know. I mean, I think, yeah, in this book, I mean, I believe that's like the first chapter in the prologue, yeah. Okay. I mean, when I was going, I mean, that was an experience that I've never experienced before. Most people I've ever played in front of at that time was the Phyllis Wheatley Festival. I know you probably remember that back in those days. And the Phyllis Wheatley Festival would be, you know, the massive crowds out there. Excuse me, my thing is going here. Massive crowds, but you know, maybe, you know, 300, 400, 500, 600 people, maybe 1,000. I don't know how many was at the Phyllis Wheatley. It was outdoors.
Right. I
show up at the Stones concert, 94,000 people. I ain't never been no place with 94,000 people. Never seen nothing like it. And it was festival seating, which means, you know, during a football game, they all up in the bleachers. No, they in the bleachers and bleeding down into the main floor. It was packed. You could not see. They looked like cattle.
Wow.
You know, the majority of them were white. So, you know, I say cattle because the way their bodies looked, the way the sun hit with the brown hair and the pale skin, it was the weirdest thing that I had ever seen in my life. I was like, I had to take a double take and I was like, it looks like they herded cattle into a big stadium and they're hosing them down with water hoses.
Wow.
I mean, there's big water hoses to keep them cool. I mean, girls are on top of guys' shoulders, shirts swinging around in the air, you know, and they're topless. And I mean, I ain't never seen nothing like this. And they was ready for some rock and roll. We step out on the stage, you know, singing some Jack You Off. They was like, what? Like, what? You know, and I'll never forget when Prince said it. He says, I'm switching the set. We're going to play Jack You Off. I was like, no. You know, I was like, what are you doing that for? And then so he, you know, gives Bobby Z the count off. All of a sudden, Bobby comes in and Prince goes to that microphone, got that little foot tapping. You know, Prince is looking all cool and stuff, got that foot tapping. He goes, this is what you do to your girl when you, you know, in a parking lot or something like that, and you're all alone. He says, you know, this is what you do to your girl. I said, no. That's what the girl does to you. I was like, no, they're gonna take this wrong. And sure enough, man, that's when we really got it.
Wow.
I remember dodging. I remember a grapefruit, big old grapefruit, got lodged in my bass keys.
Oh wow.
I was dodging Jack Daniel bottles, empty bottles of Jack Daniels. I mean, you're dodging. You're like,
yeah.
You had to be on the lookout because stuff was coming airborne. I got hit with somebody like went to Kentucky Fried Chicken or something and put it all in a baggie. And that came up and slapped me right in the chest. I was like, is that some chicken? Somebody just hit me with some chicken? I was like, oh, no, we got to get out of here. And then Prince got hit upside the head with something. I just remember, I saw it coming. It was like, bang.
Wow.
It flew up in the air. And I remember he went like that. He was not happy at all. That was it. He was done. He just exits. And everybody was like looking, and everybody kind of just followed suit and left. And I'm standing there like, is that it? We're done? And so I take my bass off and I start running, and man, the stage just got full of debris.
Yeah. There's a photo and I think some video of that too, that circulated at one point.
It looked like a cloud, because once we left the stage, there was a food fight, and it looked like clouds. It just, just thick gray cloud just emerging, and it was food. They're throwing food at each other. It's a food fight.
Wow.
That was a crazy show. That's all we did it two days.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was the thing too. You went back for more. I guess, that's when he changed the setup, and that's when the Jack You Off thing came. And I was like, oh man, that's a wrong move for this set. So 95,000 crazy Rolling Stones fans. But then as time went, not much time passed before you guys were playing in front of large crowds. But you noticed something with the crowds. We talked about this, and you talk about it, I believe, in the book. You noticed that as Prince became this huge star, he started becoming this huge star, the crowd became more white. And what was the reaction that you and Prince had to that?
I don't think the rest of the band, I don't think it really brushed them the way it brushed me and Prince. And, like I said, man, Prince, he doesn't talk about things, like I say, real private like that. But I knew, because it was a black thing. It was that brother thing, we knew. And it was just like, because he would look at that audience, and I knew. I looked at him, and I would look at the audience. And I was like, and it started happening after Little Red Corvette, when that hit, because that's when his audience really started to change. And I was like, what is going on here? And I remember it was such a big problem that he got the black promoters involved, and they started shifting some things up. That's a better conversation for like a Billy Sparks or somebody like that, who was on that side of the fence of the legal, the promotion and legal stuff. Yeah. But I just remember it was a big issue that got fixed. It got fixed quickly, Prince was having it. Yeah, because all the black people started ending up way up in the bleachers. When we go play our shows, and then all the whites were close up to the stage, and it was like, what's going on here? But it was because that's the climate of pop music. The promotional teams, all the good tickets, all the good seats, all of that always ended up in the white neighborhoods, the suburban neighborhoods at the time. It's shifted now it's reversed, but back then, it was like the suburbs were white, and that's where all the really good seats were being sold. And it was like, something's wrong here, something's wrong. And it was an economic thing too, because the price of the tickets, to be close up, it was more expensive. And so that played a huge part. And, I could be wrong with my logistics, but I just know what I remember. And I remember a huge problem. And I remember Prince was very disturbed about it. And I remember he reacted. And next thing I knew, by mid Purple Rain, it was a different ballgame.
Yeah, and talk about Purple Rain just for a moment. A couple of things about Purple Rain. There's a lot about Purple Rain that's interesting, but as it pertains to the band, now in the movie, it's depicted that Lisa and Wendy actually wrote Purple Rain, the song Purple Rain, at least the music anyway. And also talk about that, if you will, and how much collaboration did the Revolution have with Prince? I mean, what did he listen to you guys? Did he accept your ideas? And also, what was it like for you personally, Mark, to be in this major motion picture that actually you guys, for the music, you won an Academy Award for?
Yeah. You know who wrote Purple Rain and that whole scene in the movie? You know, that's a subject I can't really speak on. I mean, heck, I co-wrote Kiss, I co-wrote Girls and Boys, I co-wrote Data Bank, and there's many others, but nobody ever heard about it. Nobody knew.
I didn't know you wrote Girls and Boys. That's my song.
Exactly. I was writing that for Maserati. But what happened was, when Prince hears something that he wants, it's his. He just takes it, you know. And at the time, you know, we didn't understand royalties, and I mean, maybe the girls did. I didn't understand all that stuff. But Prince, he would take. So, did the girls ever submit maybe? Or were they playing on the piano these chords or something? I don't know. It's a possibility. I wasn't there. All I know is I came to rehearsal one day, and the next 10 hours we're working on this song. I was bored out of my mind. I was falling asleep. You know, I mean, it was the most boring, and I kept getting the bass notes messed up. I mean, I remember the whole creation of that. And that was when Wendy first got in the band, and she was, we did that gig at First Avenue with her. That was like her rehearsal show, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, if it did happen, I have no clue. I don't know. I can't speak on, only the girls could probably speak on that truth. But I do know that I never submitted anything, but I would be working on stuff, and he would walk in and it was over.
You're like, oh God, here he comes.
And I never fought him, because I was always like, oh, he gonna take care of me. He gonna take care. I'm gonna get paid. I'm gonna get them royalties. Yeah. I'm gonna be living in a mansion. This is gonna be I'm gonna have me a Rolls Royce and all of that. Wrong. It never happened.
But what was it like being in that movie? I mean, it's such a, people today, young kids today, who learn about Purple Rain, they watch it. It's still, as popular as ever.
Yeah, I don't know. That baffles me, and it will baffle me for the rest of my life, because I ain't never liked Purple Rain. I'm just keeping it real. I ain't never liked.
You were supposed to have a speaking role in that. I understand, and they took that from you.
They took it just like the songs. Just it's like, who's the? I started really feeling like the spot in the band. I was the speck. I was the darkie. I was like, okay, take from the darkie. And I just had to sit there like, do I get anything? Can I at least get a spotlight? Can I get a bass solo or something? Nothing. Kept me. I was always like driven to the back. I didn't complain because I'm a soldier. I learned that soldier mentality just growing up in Minneapolis, and my mother was a huge part of that, in training me how to pay attention to those who are in the lead of you. Try to step in front of them. Don't try to step over them. Stay in your space. If you don't want to do it no more, quit. But don't try to get in front of them or be sneaky and conniving and go behind their back and try to work some junk out. She said, always be upright, and you stick with him. Learn as much as you can. When it's your time to go, just go. Say, and that's how I live my life. So I was a soldier. It's like, yes, sir, Prince.
We are talking to the great BrownMark, and if those of you who are watching, if you haven't or if you may have forgotten the greatness of BrownMark, we got a video clip for you to check out. In fact, I think it's ready now. So let's check out BrownMark doing his thing.
Hi, my name is BrownMark, and I'd like to welcome all of you to my channel. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the former bass player to Prince and the Revolution. And what I did was put together this channel here, and every Friday we're going to be exploring music, funk music from the past. Also, we're going to have a little jam session where I'm going to break down a lot of techniques, specifically the rumble technique that I was able to develop through the years and through all my experience. I've actually been in the business, wow, about 40 years now. That's a long time. A little over 40 years, actually. I've given away my age. But anyways, I'd like to welcome all of you to the channel. If it sounds like something that would be fun for you, go ahead and hit subscribe. And every Friday, you'll be in for a surprise.
Well, hit the subscribe button. Go to YouTube, y'all, and check out BrownMark, because I've been checking it out, and it's some. You got the Skillet going. Tell me about the Skillet, because that was some awesome stuff.
Thank you. I mean, I used to always call my studio the Skillet. I mean and it was skills, skills in it. That's where I came up with. I'm gonna just call it the Skillet. Because it's greasy, it's funky. It's my place. It's men had their man caves. I had the Skillet. That was my man cave. Every house I've ever lived in that I ever owned, I always put a studio in it. I got one in this house, and it's just the way I've always rolled. So I call it the Skillet, and it's my place where I can go and just really release all that. I mean, Prince ain't the only one that got 1 million songs in a vault.
Right.
I write songs every day. I got so much music that people have never heard. And you got to release it. It's like, and people be tripping. They be like, man, did you have a band coming to do that? Like, no, I did it all myself. One of the biggest things that I got from Prince was how to be a one-man band.
Mm-hmm.
If you got an idea, write it. If you know how to play guitar, drum, bass, keyboard, lay your own junk down and then get your band to learn it. And I was like, okay, yeah, that's a good idea. And so I've been on that bandwagon ever since. And that's what I do. I write my own music.
So you were able to take away, I'm sure, a lot of gems from him.
Oh, tons. I'm telling you, it was the Purple University of Funk. University.
I like that.
Yeah, man, Prince, man, that dude was no joke. He was definitely a genius. I don't take that away from him at all. He was just a phenomenal cat.
And the fans tend to do a lot of comparing, and of course we remember the media, of course, too. And you remember in the 1980s, you mentioned Ola Ray, and of course she was in Michael Jackson's Thriller video. But there was always that Prince versus Michael Jackson. That was the banner, right?
Yeah.
Was there really a rivalry as far as you knew?
No, I mean, there's no comparison. I think that's just, the journalists and everybody just creating something that didn't exist. I mean, Prince loved Michael Jackson. He had a lot of respect for him. The thing is, Michael Jackson was a dancer, a showman. He was a performer. Prince is a musician and performer. So Michael didn't have what Prince had. They were two different worlds. So you couldn't compare them. Can't nobody get up and do Michael Jackson. Michael be tearing it up, Prince hated that I was a Michael fan. I'd show up for rehearsal, I'd have all sequence on. Prince be like, okay, what's this? I'd be like, man, Michael Jackson, man. He'd be like, no, you ain't wearing that around me.
You almost sound like Prince when you said that. You ain't wearing that.
You ain't wearing that around me. Like, Mark, that was Mark. What's that? Why are you wearing that?
Well, what was if you had to choose maybe 3 of your favorite songs that the Revolution did with Prince, what would they be?
3 of my favorite.
Is that too hard?
Give me 1 second, because I'm gonna lose you in a second if I don't do something really quick. I'll be right back.
So we're talking with BrownMark of the Revolution, Prince's Revolution band. He was there doing all of the really, really great times. And in fact, when you think about the album 1999, it still resonates today. Purple Rain, of course. And also, BrownMark worked on Sign of the Times, which, in my opinion, and in a lot of people's opinion too, is probably the best record ever made.
Yeah. So I'm back, and you know what? Here's the thing. I don't have a favorite. You know, I get asked that question. I got some dirt or something. Man, what is? I'm sorry, y'all. I came over here looking like a bum. You know, I don't have a favorite song. There's so. I mean, I like so many. Yeah.
You have a least favorite.
My least favorite. Purple Rain. I can't stand that song. I'm sorry, man. Purple Rain. I've been playing Purple Rain 10, 15 hours a day since 1983, and I'm sick of it. I mean, we played.
Well, is that the problem?
Over, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it wore me out. I was like, I could play Purple Rain in my sleep. I could be blindfolded and somebody hand me a bass. I could play Purple Rain right now.
So, was there a song whose success took you by surprise?
Not really.
Yeah.
Not really. I mean, Prince was just such a unique artist. I mean, it's like he opened up the way for him to do whatever he wanted. I mean, anything he put out was going to be a hit because he had already reached that pinnacle of success. Once you get so high, it doesn't matter. You can put out some boo-boo and people are going to be like, oh, that was funky. Oh, did you hear that?
Yeah.
You know, and it could be the wackest song, you know, that ever created, but it didn't matter. Because once you reach a certain point, people just buy into whatever you do because they love you as a person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how about the other way around? Was there a song that you guys did that you said, man, this is going to be a hit, and it just went flat?
Kiss. Well, it didn't go. Kiss didn't go flat, you know.
Yeah.
But Kiss was one of his biggest hits. That's one of the biggest hits of his career.
Yeah.
You know, thank you very much. See, me and him was just getting ready to get into that before he passed. I was getting ready to get up in him because, you know, I had let it go for so long, and I wanted, you know, I just wanted him to do right by me. And, you know, and that's why he kind of rekindled our relationship, and we were talking more now. He's flying me in town, we're hanging. So I was just waiting for that right opportunity to be like, okay, yo, bro, I'm working a 9 to 5, man. You out here like driving Rolls Royces and limousines and stuff. I mean, you need to hook a brother up or something. Can you give me a half a piece of what I helped? You know, you sit there and you talk about all this stuff that I helped you do. Can you give a brother a half a piece?
Yeah.
And I was getting ready to approach him like that, and but then, you know, the unfortunate happened.
Yeah. And, you know, we talked about Purple Rain, but there were two other films. And one of them in particular really needs some explanation from Prince fans, and that is Graffiti Bridge. Can you tell us what was the mindset of Graffiti Bridge? Because at first it was built as this sequel to Purple Rain. And in some ways it may have been, but it certainly wasn't Purple Rain.
Yeah, I wasn't there. You know, I had quit the band, you know, for all of those out there who think that Prince fired the revolution. No, I quit. I quit back in '86. I was gone. And I just got to a point where enough's enough. And I left. And so when he started working on Sign of the Times, he came back and asked me to be in that band. And I was like, dude, I just quit. I mean, 6 months ago, I just quit. Why? I mean, how? I said, no. I said, I want to do my own thing. Whatever that is, I said, I'm going to do my own thing. So when Graffiti Bridge came around, I was out at Paisley. I was there when they were filming it. You know, he was showing off, showing me all, you know, look at the set. Yeah, yeah. And I went and I was like, wow, this is serious. So I thought, well, maybe this movie will do something. But then when I saw it, I was like, ugh. I was like, nah, Prince, you should have left that alone.
Did he feel that way? Did you get the impression that afterwards? Because, for instance, you know, you've had actors and you've had had producers make movies, and they say, man, I probably shouldn't have made that movie. Did you think Prince feel that way about Graffiti Bridge?
It's hard to say because he's a guy that does not look back. Mm-hmm. He just doesn't look back. Prince doesn't look back and go, you know, yeah, you know, we should have done it this way. No, he's always 2 years in the future with his production. So it's hard to say, but I do know that you know, I'm going to go back to Sign of the Times a little bit. Mm-hmm. That was a revolution record. See, a lot of people don't realize, you know, that was a revolution record. You know, I would say at least 70% of it was the revolution. That's junk we worked on 2 years prior.
Right.
You know, and so when it came out, you know, I understood why he wanted me to be in the band because, you know, I had developed my own style on the bottom end. It's just mine. Nobody can take it. Nobody can own. Larry Graham owned his sound. Stanley Clarke owned his. Louis Johnson owned his. Victor Wooten has his. BrownMark's got his. I got my own thing. Nobody can take it from me. Nobody can say, oh, he got that from this or that. No, that's my style that I developed. And when Sign of the Times was being developed, when he put the group together, I think he had this vision of me and Sheila because, you know, me and Sheila had played together a lot. And we funky. That's all I can say. Me and Sheila, we can hold it down because Sheila, you know, she be licking that drum, but then I'll be licking that bass. And then so when you hear that combination together, it's a funky beast. And I think he wanted that, you know. But at that time, it was time for me to move on.
Emilio is asking about Dez. Are you and Dez still cool?
I mean, I'm cool with everybody, you know, but I don't talk to Dez like on a daily basis. You know, I don't live in Minneapolis anymore, so I don't really communicate. But when we bump into each other, it's all love, you know. We know each other,
And the Revolution is still playing, right? You guys are still out there.
Well, COVID shut us down. You know, we canceled 2 tours. And so how do we bounce back from that? I don't really know. You know, I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that the promoters will do the right thing and, you know, bring us all back out there and do that thing, you know, because what happens, what a lot of people don't understand about playing music is the promoters have so much to say about what happens. And they come to us offering us some, you know, chitlin circuit money. I'm just like, come on, man. You know, I make more money sitting in my living room than getting out here and slaving for what? For you to make money? And so that's what happens a lot with us is we don't get the right offers, and we're not greedy, but we know our worth. We know what it's worth, and we know how much it cost us to bring people a production equivalent to what Prince used to do. I'm not talking about all the staging and all that, but the sound quality we bring. Anybody that has seen a Revolution concert, we bring it just like we did back in the day. You're going to get that feel. You're going to get that, your body going to shake, you know, undeniably. And we bring that, but that costs money. You know, that ain't something that we just threw together. That's a lot of production. That's a lot of work. So I'm hoping the promoters do right and just, you know, bring us back.
Mark, we got about less than a minute to go. But tell us one gem, one tidbit in that book, Mark, that you could share and make sure people go and buy it and hear the rest of the story. Give us something from that book. Something from this book is, if I could give you one thing, there's a chapter called The Carrot and the Hat Trick. The Carrot and the Hat Trick. What I wanted to do is
so many people have deified Prince and made him out of a god, and that's your prerogative. Do what you want. But there were a lot of elements that helped him get to where he was. A lot of us put a lot of our lives into that. And the carrot that was always dangled in my head, oh, you're going to be rich. Oh, you're going to, ooh. You know, and I'm always, you know, I'm trying to fight that carrot, you know, and I'm like, okay. And then he would not follow through. And then another thing would come and he'd start dangling. He's like, come on, bro, you know, you want that. And so I wanted to tell people about that because, you know, that hurt me. That hurt. I was a young man. And so I had to spend the rest of my life dealing with that. And that was hard. And if it wasn't for my spirituality and my, you know, I got religious, and if it wasn't for all the things that I connected myself to take my mind away from that, I don't know what I would have done. I probably would have spun out, drugs, drinking, because I was, you know, I almost had to put myself in rehab. You know, I was a drunkard for a time period there. That lifestyle does that to you. And so to add it on top of the injury, when you're not even getting your due, you know, that story needed to be told. And it's not a mean story. Like I said, he would have read it and he would have been like, Mark, why you spreading my business? I'll be like, yo, man, simple brother, a couple mil, you know, this have to come out, you know.
Man, we appreciate you and really appreciate you keeping it real. Buy the book, My Life in the Purple Kingdom, BrownMark. You got to check it out. And also check out his YouTube channel. Subscribe to it. You will not be disappointed. BrownMark, we appreciate you. We know that it must not be an easy time. We talked about 5 years, 2 more days. And in fact, 5 years till April 21st was the date that we lost Prince. Yeah. But we thank you. We thank you for the music. And we're looking forward to the revolution getting back on stage.
Oh, we're going to do it. And hey, I just got to say this. If you guys check out my YouTube channel on Friday, I'm telling you, I got a treat. It's going to blow people. This is going to be funky. This is going to be sick. Yeah.
Check it out. BrownMark, everybody. Thanks so much. Everybody stay safe and stay well. We'll see you the next time.
All right. Right on.